presence of the Lord? Amen. The first song they done was, Lord, you can have all of me. Well, I was wondering if I got the right scripture. Amen. It says here in Mark chapter 12, starting verse 29, it says, And Jesus answered him, First of all, the commandments is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind, with all thy strength. This is the first commandment. Amen. You can have all of me. You know, there are 86,400 seconds in one day. On an average, we would spend 2 hours in church. That's just 7,200 seconds. Amen. 7,200, and we got 79,200 seconds to do what we want to do. Amen. But for 7,200 seconds, it seems like a lot when you're counting by the seconds. But when we're here in the house of God, I think it's just appropriate to make every second count. To give everything. You know, when you're talking to somebody and somebody cuts in, you say, hey, just give me 1 second. Amen. 1 second can go a long ways in the house of God. Amen. I say we give God everything. We got 7,200 seconds. Amen. We can give God everything we got right here in 7,200 seconds. And we can take the other 79,200 seconds and do that for work for the Lord. Amen. Amen. Y'all give God some praise. Amen.
I
rescued me from myself, my own worst enemy. Man, I'm thankful tonight. Why don't we take just a moment? Just thank the Lord. From the bottom of our heart. God, I thank you for rescuing me. God, I thank you for pulling me out of that world of sin that I was in. Bondage. Darkness. God, I love you. Oh, I love you, Jesus. I praise you tonight, Lord. Thank you for touching me. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for changing me. Thank you for giving me purpose. Thank you for giving me direction. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Oh, yes.
Then I went down to the potter's house, and behold, he wrought a work on the wheels. And the vessel that he made of clay was marred in the hand of the potter. So he made another vessel, as seemed good to the potter to make it. Sometimes we get to the place where the vessel that he made to begin with, when we've got the Holy Ghost, sometimes we get marred amongst life, the trials of life, things we have to fight, things we have to face, and we forget. We forget what it was like when we first got the Holy Ghost. How everything was new. The people that we hated, we didn't hate anymore. We loved everybody. The ugliest pig in the county was beautiful. We forget what it's like when we get the Holy Ghost. Because we have to fight all these things that come our way. And so we get marred amongst the world. And so sometimes we just have to say, okay, Potter, take me and make me again. You know, smooth out my rough edges, take out the stones that got stuck along the way, pick the bugs out of my teeth as I went flying down the road of life. Make me new. And sometimes we have to do that. So I want to sing this song. I don't know how well I'll do, but y'all just pray for me. I hope I got the right Potter to play.
Say, oh, yeah, that way. smile at your neighbor tonight. Amen. Thank you, Sister Stone. Thank you, Brother and Sister Etheridge. A song I haven't heard in a while. Don't need to let those not be sung. Amen. If you have your Bibles, we'll be to Isaiah chapter 40, beginning in verse 26. It says, lift up your eyes on high, and behold, who hath created these things, that bringeth out their host by number. He calleth them all by names by the greatness of his might, for that he is strong in power, not one faileth. Why sayest thou, O Jacob, and speakest, O Israel? My way is hid from the Lord, and my judgment is passed over from my God. Hast thou not known? Hast thou not heard that the everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not, neither is weary? There is no searching of his understanding. He giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might he increaseth strength. Even the youths shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Amen. For a few minutes tonight, I'm going to leave this thought with you. He knows my name. He knows my name. You may be seated tonight. Have you ever wondered, just on a clear night, you ever just looked up at the sky and just wondered how many stars were actually in the sky? Living in Texas, it was what we did. It was hard because we were surrounded by so many lights and city lights and street lights, and step out in the complete darkness on a clear night and just look up at the sky. There are about 3,000 stars that are visible to the naked eye on a clear, moonless night. About 100,000 stars can be seen using a small telescope. There are an estimated 100 billion stars in our own Milky Way galaxy, although some estimates range up to 4 times that many, much depending on the number of brown dwarfs and other very dim stars. And these are only guesstimates. Kind of stretches your mind. A typical galaxy may contain anywhere between 10 million and 1 trillion stars. Therefore, using a very rough estimate of 100 billion galaxies in the observable universe, and the number of stars in our own galaxy as a reasonable average, there may be around 10 billion trillion stars in the observable universe, or quite possibly anywhere up to 10 to the 24th power. When Isaiah was writing in verse 26, he said, lift up your eyes on high, and behold, who hath created these things, that bringeth out their host by number. He was referring to the stars. Watch this. He calleth them all by names, by the greatness of his might. Based on our best estimate of 10 billion trillion stars that we know, there's a name for every one of them. There's a service now that I heard a few years ago that you can actually register a star in someone's name. You can get a certificate for it. Don't know how you can make it stick, but it's there. Sounds like a little copyright infringement to me. The Lord's already named the star. This is our God. Bishop Sunday preached about our faith and reaching out. Tonight I want to encourage you about your God that you serve. 10 billion trillion stars. And that is only estimates. In verse 25, I want to back up one. In verse 25, to whom then will you liken me, or shall I be equal, saith the Holy One? While Israel was in captivity in Babylon, there was a wearing down of sorts of their identity and their faith in their God. I can only imagine being in captivity for the length of time that they were, and going through a prolonged trial, a prolonged test, and having my faith just weakened day in, day out. We pray, we seek God, and we go through the things that we know we're supposed to do. We fast, we study, we are faithful to the house of God, but yet the thing in our life does not seem to change. Does that sound familiar to some tonight? But in this, there were many Jews that were in captivity that had taken up stargazing, that had taken up astrology, that had taken up the ways of the Babylonians because they had been immersed in their culture for so long. And this was the way that the prophet was relating to them, to remind them. You're looking at the stars. But why don't you get your eyes a little higher and look to the one who actually created the stars? Not only did he create them, but he named them one by one, and by his word they are hanging where they are. Why don't you get your eyes off of your captivity and get your eyes onto the one that has the ability to come down at a moment and break the chain of captivity in your life and bring deliverance to you and bring salvation and bring healing and bring a miracle to your life? Why don't you get your eyes off of your problem, get your eyes off of your circumstance, get your eyes off of your surroundings, and put your eyes on the one that can change that? Amen. He is the Holy One, the prophet says. If we're not diligent, if we're not careful with our walk with God, we too can have our faith weakened. We too can pick up traits and things of this world. We too can, if we're not careful, if we don't live on purpose, if we don't live with a mindset that I'm going to serve God regardless of what comes against me. I'm going to have a mindset that I'm going to live for God regardless of what I go through. If we're not careful, because we're in this world, we can get burdened down by the cares of this life. We can begin to look at the situations in our life. We can begin to reason and with logic in our minds see how that the problem that we're facing seems like it's impossible for God to move upon. I'm here tonight to remind us that we serve a God that's named every star in the heavens, the ones that we can see and the ones that we cannot even see. I promise you this, He knows what you're going through tonight. There's nothing that misses His eyes. There is nothing that misses what He hears in His ears. There is nothing in your life that is too small my name tonight. Lift your eyes up. So the prophet goes on in verse 27. He says, what sayest thou, Israel, or O Jacob, and speaketh, O Israel, my way is hid from the Lord, and my judgment is passed over from my God. While there may have been those that departed, while there may have been those that mingled with Babylon, there was still a remnant. There was still a people that was left. There was still those that refused to bow. There were those that refused to take on the customs of the heathen. There were those that held true to their faith. And this is who Jacob was, the prophet Isaiah was writing to. He says, look, you may be in a place where you feel like God has left you. You may be in a place where you feel like you have been abandoned. You may feel like you can't feel God like you once did. And you don't understand what you're going through. But I'm writing to you and I'm reminding to you that there is some things that are hid from us. Sometimes the things that we go through in life, God just has a tendency to hide them from us, not to be mean to us, not so that we can't understand, but there's something about having our faith built. There's something about putting our faith and our trust in God. If we hold on with everything that we have, if we hold on to the promises that He's given to us, if we hold on to the word of promise, the things that He has written for us, I promise you that everything's going to turn out all right. Everything that we go through is going to have a season. It's going to have a purpose. But we've got to get it made up in our minds that whatever we go through, whatever we may face in this life, there's nothing that's going to separate us from the power of God in our life. There is nothing that I'm going to face. There is nothing that I'm going to come against that's going to pull me out of the house of God. There is nothing that I'm going to look at that's going to change my mind about serving and living for God. My mind is made up. My heart is set. My face is set toward the house of God. I'm going to see this thing through. I've got some promises I'm holding on to. I've got revival and I'm ready to see. I've got some loved ones that I'm ready to see come in the house of God. I've got some things that I know that God still hasn't fulfilled in my life. And I'm ready to see what He has. Let's give the Lord a hand clap of praise. Sometimes it could even feel like that there has been an abandonment of God's presence in our life. But that's not His intention. This is what Isaiah was doing. He was convincing them that God had not left them. He was building the faith of those that had maybe weakened or their faith had escaped them. Just to remind them. How can you say the Lord does not see your troubles? How can you say that God has ignored you and where you are? He will not forsake what He has made. He does not grow tired as we do. The Bible says that He is not slack concerning His promise. He doesn't get weary of us praying and seeking and reminding Him of the needs that we have in our life. And then Isaiah at some point reminded them that everything that we know about God doesn't even scratch the surface. To know God is incomprehensible in the way that He could be known. We know Him in the power of His Spirit. We know Him in the power of deliverance, in the power of salvation, in the power of healing and miracles. But that doesn't even scratch the surface to who He is. We're talking about a God that has named every star in the heaven. And not only does He name them, but He puts them where they belong. And it sounds like that as he was writing, I can picture picture in my mind that God may be taking a roll call, because he says not one faileth. He was checking on the stars. If he cares enough about each and every star to put a name on it, to know where its location is, I'm telling you this tonight, he knows and he cares about you and I tonight. He knows my name. He knows where I live. He knows what I'm going through. He knows what I have need of tonight in this place, and I know that he cares about you. There is nothing that is hidden from him. Psalm 147 says, "Praise ye the Lord, for it is good to sing praises unto our God. For it is pleasant, and praise is comely. The Lord doth build up Jerusalem. He gathereth together the outcasts of Israel. He healeth the broken in heart, and bindeth up their wounds. He telleth the number of the stars. He calleth them all by their names. Great is our Lord, and of great power. His understanding is infinite." This is our God. This is why we are here tonight, is to praise and to worship our God. So I'm trying some way to just grasp, to comprehend the amount of stars that are in our galaxy and in those that are surrounding us that we know of. We'll put things into perspective. Did you know that in the United States, according to the 2010 census, there were 331,204,286 people living in the United States of America? If every one of us lined up in a single line, we could stretch around the earth almost 7 times. That's a lot of people. This is where it started to break it. I really wanted to. This is just how my mind works. Trying to understand this. The same bureau, Census Bureau, tells us that there are at least 151,671 last names in the United States. Anybody want to take a shot at first names? That was the most common one. Yeah. John Smith, I think, was the most common. There are only 5,000, according to the Census Bureau, 163 first names in the United States. So, let's go down a little further. Luke chapter 12 and verse 27 says, "But even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. For not therefore ye are of more value than many sparrows." So I asked Google another question. How many hairs do we have on our head? It had an answer. There are on the average head anywhere from 80 to 120,000 hair on your head. Let's go a little further. On that head, some more, some less. In a square inch, there are anywhere from between 800 to 1,290 hairs per square inch. So if the Lord knows every hair on our head and it's numbered, then we lose some. On average, you can lose between 50 and 100 hair a day. I want to bring this into perspective tonight. Because sometimes I believe that we look so intently at our problem that we lose sight of the problem solver. we can get so focused on what we're going through that we move the focus where it belongs and not where it should be. Every hair of our head are all numbered. He knows my name tonight. He knows my thoughts. He knows my heart. He knows what motivates me. He knows what moves me. He knows what I'm dreaming of. He knows what I'm thinking. He knows everything about me. This is our God. I had an illustration. I wanted to bring, let me read this scripture. Genesis 22:17. That in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore. And thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. This was the covenant with Abraham that God was making because of his faithfulness. That he was going to multiply his seed. He was going to multiply his offspring. I was thinking about this. If God told Abraham that his descendants were going to be more than the stars of the heavens and more than the sands the sea. The stars all had a name. So I'd like to think that every granule of sand in the ocean is numbered. I'd like to think that God, in his infinite wisdom and his power, in his mind, knew the exact number of sand pieces and particles on our planet when he told Abraham, hey, I'm going to make your offspring greater than the stars and the sand. He knew. He couldn't just say something and it be. No, God was very specific. And you can think what you want to tonight, but I know that the God that I serve has got a name for every star. He's got a name for everyone that's hanging in the heavens. And I know that my God that I serve, the one that resides on the inside of me by the power of his Spirit, he knows who I am. He knows what I'm facing. He knows what I'm going through. He is a God that is personal. He wants to know every time we have a need in our life. He wants to know every time we're thankful for a prayer that he's answered. He wants to know every time we get up in the morning that there is a praise in our heart. He wants to know that we've got faith in him to know that whatever we might be going through, that he is able to move that mountain, that he is able to do whatever he has to do so that things begin to take shape in our life. Amen. He knows my name tonight. He knows everything that I am. He knows what makes me up. He knows every situation in my heart. And tonight, that is the God that we serve in this place tonight. Could we stand tonight? Oh, what a God. Oh, what a God. Sometimes I believe it's good to pause from our problems and to focus on his greatness. And you may do that, and I'm thankful, but I know that there are some of us that I deal with carnality, Bishop. And sometimes it's easier to have a pity party than it is to begin to focus on God and his greatness. It is so easy to focus and to look at what I'm going through. And to, in my mind, into my intellect and my ability, begin to size up and say, well, I don't see this, or I don't see that, or I don't see how that's possible. But when I read Scripture and I understand the vastness of our God, the greatness of our God and who he is, and what the Word tells us that he's done, named every star. Folks, I'm going to tell you tonight, our needs are nothing for him. things that strike us in our heart, the things that cause us burdens and pain, they're nothing for Him. If He knows the hairs on our head and they're numbered, if He knows that when we lose them, there's got to be math done. When we think about the 10 billion trillion amount of stars that we only can take a good estimate at, and to know that, hey, He is a personal God. That is a great God. Oh, what a God tonight. Oh, how powerful He is. Oh, how matchless His name is. I guess that's why we got to be buried in His name. I guess that's why everything that we do in word or in deed, it's got to be done in His name. Why? Because there's no other God that shares His majesty. There's no other God that shares His splendor and His greatness. There's no other God, wherever it may be, that even can compare to His greatness. And that is our God tonight. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Can we take just a moment and begin to worship our God? Can we take just a moment and begin to thank Him, because we are His children. We are His bride. He has called us out of darkness, and we are no longer part of this world. I'm thankful tonight for His greatness. I'm thankful tonight because I serve a great big God. He knows my name. He knows what I have need of tonight in this place. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Well, don't look at your problem. Don't focus on what you're going through. Understand, amen, that the children of Israel were in captivity, but the writer, the prophet, was reminding them that their God, He was able to do whatever they needed. He was able to bring them out of captivity. He was able to deliver them out of the hand of their enemy. I'm here tonight to tell you that whatever you're going through, whatever you may be facing, God is able to deliver. God is able to break the bondage of sin. God is able to heal. He's able to restore. He's able to build back again the things that the enemy has destroyed. He's able to restore beyond what we can even think of tonight. I'm telling you, we serve a great big God.